Welcome to another edition of Book Reviews That Nobody Asked For. Today's book review that nobody asked for, we have the NSF, which is the National Sanitation Foundation, Health Guard Certified Food Protection Manager Preparatory Training Guide, version 8. I recently had to go over this because I am now a manager in training for Waffle House, and this gets you your Serve Safe certification with Waffle House. In fact, most food places go through Serve Safe certification. This was the training manual that I was given. And so this book review that nobody asked for is going to be a training manual, which is always interesting. So we're going to use chapter 2 as an example to review this book. So every chapter has a picture at the beginning that goes along with the title of the chapter. This chapter is Hazards and Sources of Contamination, and then they'll list your core objectives. It's always nice when any training manual or textbook has those core objectives at the beginning. That's pretty standard for a textbook or a manual like this, so I appreciate that. Then, of course, you see the organization is very clean, very crisp, right? We have proper spacing. It's easy to read. It's not, blocky, nasty text. 10-point font for the regular paragraphs, which is pretty standard. You'll see that there's a different color for your headings. 2.1 clearly labeled. They tell you what's going on in that section. So that's nice. All of them, of course, have the page numbers at the bottom, and the training manual is listed at the bottom as well. Another thing to look at is they have their tables whenever you have to have a table for information labeled. A table period, of course, is very useful. You can stuff in a lot of information and make it much easier to read. That particular one was table 2.1, toxins that cause foodborne illnesses. And so it's pretty self-explanatory there. You'll sometimes have pictures, like there's mold spores. If you didn't already know what mold looked like, I think you wouldn't need to go through a food safety training course to be able to identify mold, but they have that picture in there. Some other things that they'll do is they'll box in especially important information that you can almost guarantee will be on the quiz at the end. For instance, this one says, cross-contact is used to describe how allergens are transferred to non-allergenic foods, and cross-contamination describes how biological hazards are transferred to food. And so they'll have little boxes like that usually have important information for you to keep track of, which I appreciate. Occasionally they'll have acronyms, and you can see we have big bold print and big letters for those acronyms. That particular one is FAT TOM, which for those of you that are in the food industry will recognize that, especially if you went through Serve Safe certification. That is food, acidity, and time, and temperature, oxygen, and moisture, talking about bacterial growth and things to limit your bacterial growth. They're good with the pictures and graphs, which is excellent. We have another table. Oh, lots of tables, because that's all the foodborne illnesses, so we're just going to go past that. At the end of every chapter, they have these questions for review, which is always nice. Then they'll have an activity at the end of every chapter. This particular one, they ask the following are items that are potential hazards to food safety. Identify the hazard each item represents, physical, chemical, or biological. If the hazard is a microorganism, identify what kind, bacteria, parasite, virus, etc. So they're very clear in their instructions, which is good. Then they have these case studies, and I think that this is my favorite thing in this particular training manual, because I've been Serve Safe certified at other places that I've worked in the food industry in the past, and they didn't always have these case studies. But I appreciate them because it gives real-world scenarios. And then they'll ask questions about those real-world scenarios. For time's sake, I won't read this whole case study, but 2 questions that they ask are, what type of potential hazards did the nylon bristle brush represent? So they're asking about a particular thing that could have caused the problem, and it did when you read the case study. And then second, assuming that the customer became ill as a result of eating pizza from the establishment, what type of hazard do you think caused the illness? And in this particular case, it was because of a spray bottle that he was using for his mister for his oil on the crust. It was in a bottle that was unmarked, and therefore it got confused with a chemical that had a similar color, which of course is a big no-no. And so they have 2 more questions too. What do you think caused the foodborne outbreak? It was the mislabeled bottle. What could the manager have done to prevent the illness? Correctly labeled bottles, and of course you don't put food and chemical anywhere near each other in a kitchen. Then they'll have a chapter summary detailing all the finer points that are for you to remember. And then it's the quiz. At the end of every chapter, you have the quiz. And of course, this is just the training manual. This is not the actual certification. The actual certification will be a proctored test. But this helps get you prepared. And then it goes into chapter 3. And so all of the chapters are laid out like that. At the end of the book here, we have your references. Tells you what page you can find what information on and what corresponds to what. You have the appendices that have the mentioning of what foodborne illnesses go with which risks, which is Appendix B, and Appendix A is the physical stuff, making sure your containers are labeled properly, first in, first out, not mixing, not putting your chemicals anywhere near your food, etc., things like that. And of course, they also have the answers to all the quizzes in the back as well. And before that, they have a glossary of terms. So, overall, I would rate this a 10 out of 10. This is a fantastic manual. It's rather thin for the information that you go over for ServSafe certification, which makes it concise. And I appreciate that. It's extremely well organized. There's visual aids. There's a glossary of terms. There's case studies, which I think is major. Again, not every time have I had ServSafe certification or other food safety certification have they had case studies involved in this. Sometimes a manager would give a real-world example of what could happen, but I enjoy these case studies. They're real-world examples. They're very detailed. There's questions involved that make you think and how it could apply to the situation that you are in. And of course, the charts are very helpful as well. Very organized, very clean, lots of colors, lots of pictures. This is a 10 out of 10 manual. I don't know anybody else out there that's in the food service industry that had to get ServSafe certified. I don't know if you went through the National Sanitation Foundation. I'm pointing at the title, sorry. The National Sanitation Foundation's training manual. I think it's wonderful. I would highly recommend this training manual if you're going for your ServSafe certification or any other food safety certification. I am ServSafe certified, by the way. So I give this manual a 10 out of 10. And that is this episode of Book Reviews That Nobody Asked For. My next video I upload, I'll be back to book reviews my wife asked for because I will be reading the third book from Sarah J. Maas in that series with A Court of Thorns and Roses, which was the first book. I've already done 1 and 2, and I'll be doing the third one in my next installment of book reviews my wife asked for. Thank you all for watching as always, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your week.